When I dropped the ramp, all those machine guns opened up. And in the front of my boat, 7, 8, 10, 15 kids, I don't know, they just went down like you're cutting wheat.
On June 6, 1944, standard U.S. infantrymen were rushing through the waves towards Omaha Beach in Normandy, France. Crammed into a wooden craft with 35 other men, they were soaked, terrified, and carrying 80 pounds of gear. Suddenly, the boat grinds to a halt. The heavy steel ramp at the very front drops open, and in less than a second, a hail of German machine gun fire rips straight down the center of the boat, wiping out the entire front row before they can even take a step. Looking at the horrific footage of D-Day, the design of the famous Higgins boat looks absolutely suicidal. Why on earth would you put the only exit right in the direct line of sight of the enemy? Was this a catastrophic military blunder, or is there a terrifying reason it had to be built this way? Let's unpack the brutal logic behind the design of the boat that broke the mighty Atlantic Wall in World War II. While amphibious armored personnel carriers like the Alligator and the LVT water buffalo had already been invented, they weren't used on Omaha Beach primarily due to production shortages, geographical differences from the Pacific, and tactical choices regarding speed, capacity, and armor weight. These traveled at slower speeds and carried far fewer men compared to the LCVP Higgins boat. Plus, the sand on the European beaches was an enemy of their tracks, while the rocky coral reefs of the Pacific theater were better suited for those LVTs. Allied commanders also analyzed that the German army had an efficient network of anti-tank emplacements along the Atlantic Wall at Omaha Beach, and these slow-moving tracked LVTs would create a turkey shoot for the enemy. To understand the Higgins boat, you have to understand the man who built it, Andrew Higgins. He wasn't a military strategist. He was a New Orleans boat builder who engineered shallow draft vessels for fur trappers and oil drillers to navigate the muddy, debris-choked Louisiana swamps. Before World War II, if a navy wanted to invade a country, they had to capture a massive, heavily fortified deep-water port city just to unload their troops and vehicles from giant ships. Higgins' design changed everything. His boat had a specialized V-shaped bow, but a flat stern. This allowed it to drive right over sandbars, mash its front end directly onto an open beach, and then slide backward off the sand into the surf. General Dwight D. Eisenhower famously stated that without Higgins' boats, the Allies could have never landed over an open beach, and the entire strategy of the war would have failed. But that still begs the question, if it was so brilliant, why did the front have to open up into direct enemy fire? It seems obvious. Why not just put doors on the sides or the back? That's almost a certain and smart way to avoid the landing craft becoming a tunnel of slaughter. Well, military engineers actually tested those ideas, and the physics of the ocean revealed a much darker reality. First, consider the side exit. A Higgins boat didn't park on dry sand. It stopped in water that was anywhere from knee-deep to chest-deep. If a soldier jumped over the side, they were stepping into much deeper water, unpredictable waves, and strong undertows. Remember that 80 pounds of gear? In deep seawater, a soaked uniform and a heavy pack acted like an anchor. Dozens of men would have slipped under the waves and drowned before ever seeing an enemy soldier. And sadly, many of them did. What's worse was that in a chaotic landing, these heavy boats bounced violently next to one another. If men were jumping out of the sides, a single shifting wave could smash two multi-ton boats together, instantly crushing the soldiers floating between them. Okay, but what about a rear exit? Well, if a soldier exits from the back, they have to wade or swim all the way around a 36-foot boat while completely exposed. And if the pilot has to rev the engine or reverse to keep the boat stable in the surf, you are walking straight into a spinning underwater propeller. So the front ramp won out because it was a literal bridge. It kept the men in the shallowest water possible, allowing them to sprint straight ahead to find cover. Until that ramp dropped, the boat was a shield. The thick plywood sides and the heavy steel front plate protected the troops from small arms fire and shrapnel on 3 sides for the entire terrifying journey from the ocean. The reason we remember the front ramp as a death trap is because of what happened at Omaha Beach. The Germans didn't just place their machine guns straight ahead. They used a tactic called enfilade fire. Placing bunkers high up on the cliffs and spreading them to the far left and right. Their machine guns fired diagonally across the beach, so when the front ramps dropped, the German gunners on the cliffs actually had a perfect, horrifying line of sight right into the open mouths of the boats. It wasn't an unwise design by the Allies. It was a brutal, tragic intersection of brilliant German defensive engineering and geography waiting for them on the sandy beaches. On day 1 of D-Day alone, the Allies suffered an estimated 10,000 casualties. But despite the chaos, and despite the lethal bottleneck of the front ramp, small groups of soldiers took initiative, stormed past the gunfire, and secured the beachhead. The Higgins boat was far from perfect, but it was the only vessel on Earth at that time capable of delivering the hammer blow that broke the impenetrable Atlantic wall of the Third Reich. Next time you see that iconic footage of the ramp dropping, remember? It wasn't a mistake. It was the narrow, brutal doorway through which the liberation of the world had to pass. If you want to dive deeper into the insane engineering and secret tactics of World War II, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video.